Hey gamers, today we're going to look at Myrmes. Let's check it out. To set for the game, you're going to put out this board and put your little ant mound wherever you see the little dots, the little pit points on there. For 2, 3, or 4 players, it tells you the spots you can place your little ant mound there. You'll have these little, and you'll shuffle around these little insect tokens. There's ladybugs, I believe these are termites and spiders, and you'll put them whenever you see the little spider emblem on them. And you'll just randomly dole them out. You'll have a few extra over here. You'll have your resources over here. There are dirt, pebbles, and food. The white cubes are larvae, and you'll start with one disgusting little larvae in your little ant colony here. You'll have these little double-sided tokens that can either give you food or rock or pebble or sand or dirt or pebble, whichever you want. They also count as victory points. That's what those leaves are when you pass them out. You have to have something special unlocked to get some of these. Also, you'll be shuffling and dealing out some objective cards, tiles here. The blue ones are the easiest, then purple, then red, and that's how you have to solve them in that order. After that, you have these 3 die that you will roll for each season. Then you have the winter pawn here. You'll place it at 1. This will go 3 rounds here, and every round you're going to roll these dice. Okay, and then basically set where you go on the player board. Now the player board starts with a disc right up here. You'll have your little player marker here. I don't know if you can see that, but that is an ant on that one. It doesn't show it well in black. But you'll place it on the 0 on the score track on the outside. You have these 3 cylinder workers here that's kind of like worker placement. You have this little cube here that you will set to match the pit value of that season. So for instance, it's the spring, it's a 1. This one would go on the 1. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Again, I told you to start with 1 larvae, and then you have these little worker ants. Look at them. Oh, they're like little plastic little ants. That's really cool. And they're going to go out. You start with 2, and then you can build more later on in the season. Now, this player board is extremely cool. It tells you what you should do and what steps you do it in. So let's go through it. First thing, like I said, you look at the seasonal die, whatever it is, and that's number 1. You set it wherever it is. So it's a black 1, you put the 1 there. Now, for 1 larvae, you can change the outcome. You can put it behind that number or in front of that number to change your special ability. So it doesn't make you just, pushed for whatever the thing on. Maybe you don't need number 1. Maybe you want the superpower of one of the other ones or the special ability of one of the other ones, and you can do that. So for instance, what's below a 1? Well, a 0. That lets you operate at 1 colony size higher than what your disc indicates. At first, everyone starts at the top. You can later upgrade your colony to do better things. This one's like a free temporary upgrade, meaning it opens up a second. Like if I start here, it opens up both of these spots for me. If I was here, it opens up all 4 of these spots for me. This one actually gives you, number 1 gives you an extra victory point. Every time you score victory points in the game, you get an extra victory point. Here, number 2 gives you double the larvae for putting people here. You get double the larvae. So if I place 1 person here, I get 2 larvae. If I put another cylinder here, I get 4 larvae, because that's double times 2. So it's a great way to build up your larvae. I'll explain more why larvae is good in a minute. Anyway, this one increases the speed of your workers. Workers can move, these little ants can only move 3 spaces, but this gives them, and then they die out, or maybe they just leave. When they leave the ant bit, you don't go back to them again. But anyway, this one lets them move a +3, so they can get a little bit further on the board there. This one gives you a +1 when building army ants. Army ants can be built here by putting 2 cylinders here. You can build 1 army ant, and a 3rd cylinder here, you can build a 2nd army ant. Army ants are basically the same as regular worker ants. You'll just leave them here, and that's really where they're going to stay throughout the whole game. They're good at fighting bugs and protecting food for the winter, which I'll get into in a moment. Here, the next one here, it basically gives you a +1 cylinder, meaning if I was to place 1 here, I don't have to place 1 here to build a worker, and then 1 here as well to build another worker, instead of placing 2 of each. What this one means here is I get an extra worker. So if I put 2 cylinders here, I get 2 workers. And if I had another 2, I get 2 more workers, which would be super powerful. And again, you can mitigate whatever that dice is by paying a larva before or after that cube, which you are going to do from time to time. Now, once step 1 is done, well, then we go to step 2. And step 2 is basically taking these little cylinders, like I said, you start with 3, and working them around your ant bed. And there's a few things you can do. I already told you about getting larvae, building army ants, or building worker ants. You can also place a few here and send them up here to this board over here to do various things. I guess I'll talk about these now. So what do those items right there indicate? Well, obviously they're kind of self-explanatory. If I put my worker here, then what I could do is I could get a new ant bed. You have several ant bed tokens of your color, and you could put one up that matches your little pheromone trail. I'll talk about these later on, but it can connect to one of these, and then you have your own little ant bed, and makes you get around the little forest area a little bit better. Plus you get a dirt for your troubles. If you go here, you get to upgrade your colony. I told you there are little upgrades on your own player board here. So here you see I would just move up 1 on whichever one my disc was at if I played it there. If I played it here and paid 2 food and 2 larvae, then I could get an extra cylinder, and I could have 4 cylinders for the next round, which would be really neat. And that's kind of how you get extra workers in the game. Or I can put them here and accomplish one of the goals over to the side here. Now the goals are really neat. You have to solve either the top or the bottom one, whichever one you can complete, you put it here. Now the book gives you instructions about what they do, but it's kind of simple. This one, I have to have killed 2 bugs. If I kill 2 bugs, then I can claim this one. Or I have to have 2 either dirt or pebbles. If I do that, then I place my cylinder there. Now I don't have to take over both of these. I can just take over one or the other and then go to the next challenge. I could get either 3 bugs or 3 of the same type or whatever. They get harder as you go along, but you're going to get victory points for being the first one to accomplish it. In fact, here it says, hey, accomplish a blue, you get 6. If you're the first one to do purple, you get 9. If you're the second one to do, you get 12. You know, first one to go gets 12. Now, any other player will definitely get those points too when they accomplish that, but being first matters. Because if you're first, depending on how many players there are, 2, 3, or 4, if anyone else places their cylinder next to you, you could get 5, 4, or 3 points depending on the matter of players. So it behooves you to solve these first, because as the other players who eventually have to do one or the other are going to play on there, and you're going to get some free points there for being the first one there. So I really like that mechanism. The only thing bad about this is you lose that worker. He has to stay on that board. Now you have plenty of extra workers to fill him, but to make up for him, but you will lose at least 3 in this game. So moving back here, those are the options that you can do. And by the way, playing on that little top board up there, that's actually step number 5, but you can actually place your workers that are in this area all around here, and this is one of the spots you can place them in. So now that I've gotten that, we go to 3. 3 is send these little workers out there to do your bidding, and they're doing several different things. They're getting in fights with other bugs, or they're just laying out pheromone trails. Now right now, if you look at my icon there, I'm only right here, so I can only unlock a pheromone trail of a 2. So something like this is the only thing I could unlock. So if one of my workers want to come out, he'd come out here and he could go up to 3. So maybe he goes 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter where he goes, but every time he steps on something, he can actually get one of these little pheromone trails. And any places I touch, he can come out and do it. So let's say place it here. I place it over a pebble and some dirt. So what I'm going to do is place some dirt and a pebble right there. Those are resources I can gather later. Now the grasslands and the mushrooms, nothing, nada, no points, zip, zilch. Only on dirt and pebble areas will you produce resources. Now once he's done his pheromone trail, he basically just dies off, or he leaves and never comes back. Now another thing he can do is get into a fight. Maybe the next one comes out and he goes 1, 2, 3. He wants to attack this termite. Well, to attack termites, hopefully you've gotten some army ants to back you up. How many army ants do you need? Well, the board basically tells you. If you see right down here, if it's a ladybug, those swords represent army ants. You need 1 army ant. In exchange, you'll get 2 food. This is a quick way, easy way to get food. If it's a termite, I need 1 army ant, I get a food and 2 victory points. Or if it's a spider, I gotta get 2 army ants, and what you do is you just discard them off your player board, and then you get 1 food and 4 victory points. So it also is a way to score victory points as well. So that's getting food and fighting little critters, you know, so you're doing a little bit of everything on this board here. Now, let me go to the next step. After you've doled out all your workers and they've done things, I should also mention with the pheromone trails, they can also help you out, let's say I have another pheromone trail here, in moving a faster distance, because 1 pheromone trail counts for 1 step. So let me see, let's say I just move this around like this. He was to go 1 on this pheromone trail, 2, and then 3. So he can actually move around a little bit faster around the board there if he has those pheromone trails out there. So one other thing that they can do, instead of going out into the world and it says X, meaning they'd never come back, they can go and work inside your colony and you get to keep them. There's no X by it, so they will always come back. Now you can only go to the tile where your colony is at, so the cylinder token that you see here has to be moved down for you to take advantage of any of the ones in that area. You can't take advantage of one that you don't have unless you have this little extra ability for that round. But right here, you just place a worker in any one of these places. You can get larvae, maybe food, maybe dirt or a pebble, or maybe, you know, you exchange food for 2 victory points once per round, or once per spider you put there. So ant you put there, not too bad there. These colony upgrades basically let you do different things. The first one, like I said, larvae, you need larvae. 3 larvae can be exchanged for food. Food's something you'll need later on for winter. But when it comes to this one, it basically says, hey, for 1 dirt, you can get rid of someone else's pheromone trail. So if another player wanted to come by here and he stepped on my pheromone trail, you know, because later on these things are going to be blowing up along with everyone else's, then what they can do is they can, for 1 dirt, they can kick out someone's pheromone trail and basically clear it out. So maybe next time they can plant some pheromones. Who knows? But that's what that means there. This one, if you pay any one of these cubes, you'll get one of these special tokens that you can place on the board. You'll get victory points for it, depending on where you want to place it. You can also get resources for it. And it just becomes part of your pheromone trail. Down here, oh, and by the way, you can place out 3 pheromone trails at one time, like this. So this is a 3 parts, because you can put out 3 now, and they were worth 2 victory points. So when you lay a pheromone trail, they get longer. This one lets you play out 4, a 4 pheromone trail. There you go, like this one. As you see, they get kind of bigger, and you get more victory points for placing out pheromone trails. Also, it unlocks your storage room. Right now, you can only have 4 in storage at the end of each round, but this one lets you unlock the last 2 and hold 6. Of course, to get these last 2 upgrades, you have to pay either 2 dirt and a pebble or 3 pebbles to move up. This one lets you take out the big honking 6 pheromones. That's a big area you can cover now. And for each one of these, you can also get another one of these tokens here. If you just exchange those goods, get one of these big 4-pointers too, and basically move up 2 points for, I think, each level in the colony you're at, plus get 4 victory points. So it just gets nicer and nicer as the colony gets upgraded. But anyway, if you played anyone there, you would get those cubes, and you'd also have that special ability available for you, and then those ants would come back here for the next round. Now, down here in box 4, that's when we gather. You can gather only one resource from each pheromone tile that has resources on it. You can't just grab 2 from one, unless you have, you know, this special ability here that lets you do that. But anyway, you gather those and put them in here. Now it says you can only have 4. You'll have to discard the rest if you don't use them by the end of this round. But there are ways to be using these. So step 5, that's the one I told you about, where you can go up there and get some of the special abilities. And then we go to step 6. Now step 6 is where you clear out. After step 5, you may have had extra, you know, tons of cubes, but maybe you paid them to do this, or paid them to get one of those special abilities. But if you're not below 4 or 6, then you have to discard. That's what this 6 means. And then 7, well, that tells you only during the winter round something bad will happen. That's where you have to feed your people. And this happens after 3 rounds. Then we go to winter round. What you do is you have to pay, and it says here on the board, 4 food. In the second round, 5 food. In the third round, 6 food. Now, for any army ant that you have here, that's one less food you have to do. So if I had 2 army ants here by winter, then I would only have to pay 2 food. Doesn't matter how many ants I had, but so you want to keep up getting your army ants there because they're going to kind of protect your food or count as food at the end of the round. See, that's what it says. Army ant equals a food there. Now, for any food that you need, if you're any short of those goals there, you're going to lose 3 victory points for each food you're short. Ouch, that's really going to hurt. So don't forget to gather some food or have a lot of army ants built up by winter time. And then basically, you're going to start a new season by rolling these 3 die again, putting them out here, here, and here, moving that counter here, and doing it 3 more times. Now, I should also mention, again, if you need extra food, 3 larvae can count. It can be cashed in for 1 food as well. So basically what you're doing is you're doing this thing over and over again, laying pheromone trails, getting special tiles, get you victory points, fighting insects for food and getting victory points, going up here and achieving some of these goals for victory points, and after the 3rd round, whoever has the most victory points wins. Final thoughts, what do I think about the game? Well, true story, until this review, I never noticed on this art, there are ants at the bottom here. I've never noticed that. So I want to get to this. First off, this cover, not good. The title, not good. All I saw was mushrooms. I don't know what Myrmes is. I do know now. It's another name for ants. But the thing is, though, all I saw was this. I never saw the ants here. They're hidden in the shadows below. It's really not good art. It doesn't tell you what the game's about. Again, I thought it was about growing mushrooms. So for the longest, I just skipped over it until I found out later on it was about ants. And until I did this review, I never noticed those ants were there. So terrible name, terrible box art. I understand why they did the art the way they did, kind of nature-wise, and that's fine. What do I think about the game? I think the game's actually pretty stinking fun. It's hard to score points, though. That track goes around to 90. I think the highest we've ever got is like half that. I think I got close to 45. I don't even know if I got 45. I may have been right on 45. But anyway, it is hard to score points in that game. It goes too fast. I really honestly think they ought to do this for 4 rounds or 5 rounds even. But that's good because when a game ends too soon, you want to play more. That's when you know it's a really good game. And this is a pretty good game. Of course, it's kind of worker placement. I love the theme of ants, that you're moving around the board. There are different ways of getting points. You can go out there and just start battling everyone. Worker ants are very important when wintertime comes because there's not that much food you can hold in your little burrow there, and you need that for other resources you're going to spend. The game is really smart. It's a really smart game. Using your larvae, which you're going to use all the time to mitigate those dice rolls to see if you want this power or this power before or after it. I really like that, and to be honest, there's not a bad roll. Depending on what your game plan is, there's not a bad roll. They've kind of divided those up really good. I thought, why is the 6? That doesn't seem as powerful as the 5. Well, they did that so you could have a balance of what you would need. And I just really enjoy that. I really enjoy that about the game. The more players you have, the more crazy it is. 2 to 3 players, you're not really getting rid of people's pheromones. 4 or 5 players, yeah, you're getting rid of everyone's going after each other. So I don't know which one I like best, probably with more people, of course. But it is just a fun game with a very unique and wild theme, even though I'm not crazy about that box art or the name. Everything else about the game is awesome. It's a pretty fun game. All right, folks, that's it for now. So until next time, you know what to do. Game on!